Hello all and welcome to my channel. My name is Erin and this is the start of something new, something epic. We are going to talk about Sanders Sides predictions. So hi, if you're wondering a little bit about me, I live in Canada and I am a huge Thomas Sanders nerd. And like all of you tuning in, I am beyond excited that a new Sanders Sides is coming up. Confirmed! I mean, it's been 5 ever since the main story and over 2 months since that Asides episode. We are getting desperate, Thomas. Come on now. Okay, I'm kidding. If you're like me, you've had your mind on what the upcoming episodes could have in store for us. And I've been falling down a deep well of ideas that I hope you find interesting, plausible, and if I even turn out to be partially correct, prophetic. I'm hoping that the homework I've done will lead to plausible predictions for the story to come. As of today, it is January 27th, 2020. So hopefully I get this video out in time before the next Sanders Sides video appears and people can have the time to watch it. We'll see. Now I'm going to put a disclaimer here just quickly. First, I don't know the Thomas Sanders team at all personally, so I don't know what's going to happen. Second, if my predictions don't come true in the next Sanders Sides episodes, that doesn't mean they won't be true in future episodes. And finally, if you don't agree with any of my predictions, it's all good. They're just my opinions. But if you do like them and agree with them, please feel free to agree with me in the comments below or tell me your predictions. I want to hear them. I love predictions. Okay, now on with the juicy stuff. So my brain first started to pick up on something at the end card of the Embarrassing Phases video. The emo nightmare before Christmas, if you will. To set the scene, Virgil is alone in his room decorating, and Deceit, the sneaky that he is, sneaks up on him uninvited. Now, I can't remember a time when the sides have had a conversation by themselves without Thomas. I don't think that's happened before, other than other end cards that are just played for jokes. Isn't it fishy that Deceit comes to Virgil in his room knowing that he won't be overheard by any of the other sides or Thomas? And this is before Virgil admitted to even being a dark side or other, if you will. But there's more here than just alluding to Virgil being dark. The whole video before this was about Virgil not being treated properly as Thomas's anxiety. Thomas and Patton, for that matter, have come to see Virgil as maybe a mild cloud of rain, not to be taken seriously. And while Virgil can appreciate being with the light sides now, he can still prove to be a scary threat when he wants to be. But this is important. Remember this. Write it down, class. I'm a Logan stan, in case you haven't already guessed. Necktie. Anyway, Virgil sinks out, goes back to his room, and Deceit visits. Now, we have to sift through the banter here to get to the important info. Deceit compliments Virgil on being evolved. Evolved how? Virgil says him being able to elicit fear doesn't take away from the fact that he's grown. So don't try that with him. So there's history. And yeah, a lot of you saw that Virgil and Deceit had a past here. It's very clear Virgil knows that Deceit isn't there just to talk about Halloween costumes. But I'm still hung up on evolved. Just how bad was Virgil before accepting anxiety? Before taking on anxiety with Lily, for that matter? Before we even saw him? You know, I believe Roman and Logan almost said it best.
You are hard-working. Working hard to make Thomas paranoid, vigilant. Paranovigilant. Did you like that? I just made that word up just now. I'm basically Shakespeare. You're just expressing an unhealthy amount of concern.
Deceit finishes by saying to Virgil, Keep up your personal growth. One day soon, you could be rid of us all. Well, who? Does he mean the dark sides? Or that Virgil would be rid of all the sides altogether? Here's my take on this. Virgil is the most powerful side in all of the Thomosphere. Okay, that's out there. Let's deliberate, shall we? So Virgil, your baby and mine, is the most powerful side of all of Thomas's sides. This realization came to me when Deceit needed to see Virgil alone. If Virgil was with the dark sides before he saw the light, he must have been more like paranoia when left unchecked. Paranoia and heightened anxiety can be debilitating. If Virgil ever went into full meltdown, all the other sides would have no say, as Virgil's voice would be the loudest voice in Thomas's head. I mean, we've all seen it.
Hang on! Why did you hang up? Virgil told me to! Why did you listen to him? He was loud. Look, I'm thinking off the fly here, Thomas, and you do have a bodacious backside. Stop. No. Oh, geez, he's calling you back. Pick it up! Pick it up! I don't know. Destiny has dialed back! Get rid of it. Get rid of the phone now. Oh. I know you shouldn't have done that. I meant, like, set it down or something.
I mean, it almost sounds demonic, no? So, what does this mean? Why is it so important for Deceit? Because Deceit wants to take over. Let's look at Deceit for a hot second. Emphasis on the hot. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. When we were introduced to Deceit, no one saw him coming. Apart from being a new character that needed to be introduced, we can assume Deceit's backstory was that he was in the background the entire time, manipulating all the sides as best he could in order to keep Thomas believing that he was an honest person, a completely honest person. But Logan was right. No one is ever 100% honest. But that doesn't mean that we're bad people. So why would Deceit want Thomas to believe that he's a bad person? Because active liars are manipulators for their own means and don't think about anyone before themselves. Honestly, deep down, I believe that there's a part of us that always wants to have our own way. We want to step over people, to clamber our way to the top of the hill, to be a leader, to be loved. And sometimes, lying and manipulating is the only way that can be achieved. But we have all these other factors come into play. Our consciousness and morality usually win out. But what if there was a side of us that was actively trying to break free of that prison? The prison that morality keeps in constant check for us. Deceit finally tested the waters in Can Lying Be Good? He stayed hidden, disguised as Patton. Deceit was the one that brought up Kant's moral dilemma of telling the truth to a murderer. This gave Thomas the idea that lying to Joan about going to the reading is not as bad compared to murder. And he was the one who also gave Roman the idea to rehearse lying by playing to his favorite thing, theater. As lying coach or director, he would give pointers, and he stayed quiet when Thomas did well practicing lying. In the end, he was unmasked and shunned, but his intent was clear. He was there, he was bad, and he would be back again. Okay, let's put a little pin in Deceit's story for now and focus on our newest trash boy, Remus. So Remus needed an introduction video, and the sides dealt with him as best they could. The thing about him, though, is he's proven he's not easy to get rid of. Once you have an intrusive thought, you have to ride that wave until it breaks. In the video, it's clear that the main goal of Remus is to get Virgil to crack. His game is mentioning Jeffrey Dahmer several times, playing on Virgil's insecurities, until Virgil picks up on this and starts to rant about Thomas having these thoughts. Once Virgil goes off, however, Remus noticeably quiets down and lets Virgil spiral off. It isn't until Logan makes sense of those fears that Remus gets right in his face and threatens him with the nipples line. Oh my god. I'm gonna shove your nipples up your nose. Oh my god. It seems Logan is dark creativity's biggest obstacle as well as Roman's. But there is one more thing said here that plays into the bigger picture. Remus says to Virgil directly, "You've never been one to soften the truth. Why would you aspire to be so boring?" Meaning Virgil could potentially act in a bigger way to anything that Remus says to him. Virgil even says that he might have a bigger reaction to any of Remus's suggestions than he does to Roman's. If Virgil sees the potential to act on any of Remus's ideas, he would get a lot more interesting, meaning he would panic and torture Thomas with his fears. So don't think that Remus isn't part of the bigger plan. Dealing with intrusive thoughts was just the tip of the iceberg to a bigger problem. Deceit and Remus are working together. By now you've realized that Virgil knows Remus and Deceit being a former dark side. He hid with them in the shadows until there was a reason for Thomas to have those sides of himself surface. But being in the shadows can be tough. And who wouldn't want more time with Thomas to have more influence over his life? It's possible that Virgil was sent to the light sides originally to cause havoc, being the only side to have as much presence and power over Thomas as he did, especially at the beginning of the series. And though Virgil has mellowed out considerably, having caused Thomas so much pain in the past, it doesn't mean he still can't scare him in the present. So Deceit, being the convincing manipulator that he is, must have sent Virgil to the light sides, or made it so Virgil convinced himself to show face in order to be a sleeper agent for the dark sides. And since Remus can definitely cause Virgil to panic, my theory is that Remus will come back, get Virgil to freak out, and that will be the only thing in Thomas's head being heard, which will allow Deceit, Remus, and Virgil to take over. And just so I'm clear, I don't think that Virgil wants this at all, but it's not like he has a lot of control when he panics. I guess the question is, how will Remus get Virgil to panic? I don't have the answer to that, but if you do have any ideas, maybe leave me a comment below. Anything is possible, really. Now, let's unpin Deceit again and look back at him in Can Lying Be Good? Something significant was said at the end of that video. Deceit says, "What you don't know can't hurt you." And that causes Logan to retort, "Falsehood."
Falsehood. Knowledge is an incomparably valuable multi-purpose tool that is instrumental in identifying and solving any problem. If you're worried about getting hurt, then seek knowledge. It is our greatest weapon and our greatest defense.
This is going to be important in a minute, remember it. Now, jumping ahead to selfishness versus selflessness, Deceit again was unmasked by all the sides and Thomas. To be fair, he did try to rise up as Logan usually does. Back when he impersonated Patton, he just appeared. And Thomas said that he didn't see him rise up. You know who else doesn't rise up? Virgil. It has to be a dark side trait to just appear. And it distinguishes them from the light sides for sure. Deceit attempting to rise up was an improvement on his lie, but ultimately failed because he didn't speak or dress the way Logan does. And Roman told Deceit that what he wears and says is important, like a big old blabbermouth. I think that Deceit is going to take Roman's advice more seriously in the future. I can almost guarantee this. Now, let's look at Roman in this video. Deceit was humiliated by Roman at the end of Selfishness versus Selflessness because he intended for Roman to agree with him by making him judge. Instead, Roman sided with Patton because he knows Thomas does not want to be a bad person. And that was the wrong move. Oh boy, you have no idea how much that pissed off Deceit. Because once we get to dealing with intrusive thoughts, we have Remus singing the song about who he is. Now, remember what Logan said when he was scolding Deceit?
Knowledge is an incomparably valuable multi-purpose tool.
Remus sings about Adam and Eve buying knowledge for the price of a little sin. And then a snake offered Remus a morsel from the tree of knowledge. He said, "You're wanting to be more honest and direct dealing with your issues? No longer will you deceive yourself about the ugliness within you." Deceit proves that what you do know can and will hurt you in the form of Remus. This is not only a direct contradiction to what Logan said about knowledge, but it is also a direct jab at Roman for losing the courtroom battle. Because who would be better for Deceit to send than your own funhouse mirror brother, who is everything you don't want to be? This was personal to Roman, for sure. And you know that realization that Roman never explains at the end of that video? Roman realizes that Remus coming there was his fault. Because in the courtroom, Deceit clearly wanted control of the whole decision-making process. He thought it was in the bag with Roman on his side. But what he didn't know was Roman's respect for Patton's morality. Thomas knows in his heart that he shouldn't miss the wedding, even though he desperately, desperately wants to. Here's the thing though, Deceit was right. Are you shocked? You're not really that shocked. Consider this. Deceit says he doesn't only speak in lies. And the proof of that is that he knows Thomas wants to go to the callback no matter what from the very beginning of the episode. So he puts him on the stand, accuses him, and Thomas eventually admits the truth to himself. So that means that anything Deceit says could potentially be either a truth or a lie. He's like the Schrodinger's cat of aspects. I mean, even if he told us his name, we wouldn't know if it's true or not. Therefore, I believe the following things that he said in the video are true and are going to come into play in the future. First, Deceit tells Patton that if Thomas keeps up doing selfless things, he will be less likely to do more selfless things in the future if it means giving up on his hopes and dreams. Second, Deceit says that there are smarter ways to get people to do what you want. Meaning that even though he couldn't get Thomas to lie about skipping the wedding, he will eventually get him to lie. And finally, he tells Roman that it will crush him if he doesn't go to the callback. I do believe that. Even though at the end of the video, Roman says that he will optimistically go back to the drawing board and forget about the callback. The blow of not going will be taken harder by Roman than any of the sides even realize. So, taking all of that into consideration, here's what I think is going to happen. Thomas is going to that callback. How, you may ask? Roman is going to convince him. Only it's not Roman. It's Deceit in a very, very convincing disguise. Roman, my prince, but my, you have been naughty. I have one more piece of evidence that may shock you. Now, if you don't think this is part of the main narrative, then disregard it. But I do think it is. the asides video. The story seemed pretty self-contained, except for this really funny part that seemed like it was just a hilarious way to get Deceit into the video. Well, what if it was more than that? What if they wanted us to actually read between the lines? How did Roman get Deceit's hat? Maybe Roman went to Deceit's room to get it. But sides don't just drop in on other sides without purpose. Deceit didn't with Virgil. And I don't think Roman's purpose was just to get the hat. I mean, he can conjure anything from anywhere. Look!
Well, maybe this could work.
No, I think that Roman's main purpose was to talk to Deceit. I think that Roman wants Deceit to impersonate him to convince Thomas to go to the callback. Boop. Thomas would never listen to Deceit on purpose, but Roman really, really wants to go. And Thomas would probably listen to Roman, but maybe Roman doesn't want to do the dirty work. And Deceit wants what Roman wants. After going to the callback, Deceit will finally reveal himself, and Roman will be nowhere around. I believe Roman will be hiding in his room out of shame for convincing Deceit to do his dirty work in order to not be blamed. Thomas and the other sides will have to go find Roman in his room. But stay glittery, Roman stans. It isn't all doom and gloom. All of this is part of Roman's overall character development and arc. I believe if they go with this storyline, Roman will be apologetic, of course, but the other sides will realize that Roman needs to be listened to as well. The sides will all need to work together to assure Roman that he is still an important part of Thomas's personality. But overall, this story will be about Roman falling down hard from grace in order to rise to great heights, coming back stronger than ever. So, that is my long, overblown theory for you. Sorry, it's so long. To summarize, Deceit is the baddie you want to watch out for. He's a manipulative bitch who wants to take over and have more control. He'll get Remus to scare Virgil into panicking, and all the other sides will have to take a back seat because they won't be able to get through to Virgil. I think that the only calming thing for Virgil at the time will be Deceit convincing Thomas to lie without remorse. Lie about going to the wedding or not going to the wedding? Or will it be another worse issue in Thomas's life? I don't have it all worked out yet, but I'm excited by the prospect. I am almost positive that the next episode will be dealing with Roman and his arc. I'm unsure if the Deceit and Virgil stuff will be connected, but I'm almost positive that Deceit sending Remus because Roman humiliated him will be part of Roman's story. Now, this theory that I've put out there might seem dark in more ways than one, but just remember that Thomas ultimately is still a good person. He's smart, creative, grounded, and has upstanding morality that we can all aspire to. Despite Deceit's best efforts, he will ultimately get shot down because Thomas living as a liar and a manipulator the way Deceit wants him to will ultimately make Thomas suffer. The light sides would eventually come back together, stronger than ever, to oust the snake and return Thomas to some semblance of normalcy. Heck, you could even argue that Deceit's intentions were not for Thomas to suffer, but to prosper. But after he sees how much he causes Thomas to suffer from being a bad person, that could even be the start of Deceit's redemption arc, if that's the way they were going to go with the series. I mean, if it happened for Virgil, it could potentially happen for Deceit. I don't think it'll happen for Remus. I don't think Remus cares either way. So that's my whole big long theory. I just wanted to slip in a few more little predictions before I close out the video. They didn't really fit into the main overall theory that I had, but I just wanted to mention a couple to see if they come true. So hopefully you guys notice these little things that I picked up in the videos as well, and hopefully they get repeated because running jokes are always hilarious. So the first thing that I really want to come back is Logan and Roman using Thomas's respective arms against each other. I thought that was really hilarious. And I mean, if Remus and Roman are both the creative side, I think it would be funny if Remus also used one of the arms. I mean, who was it that flipped the bird? Come on. Second, I hope that Logan gets out his little notebook again to write down stupid ideas, because I can see Logan jotting down more things said to him that were unprecedentedly stupid and keeping receipts for future episodes. That was really funny to me. There's another theory out there that I want to give my 2 cents on that's been floating around the interwebs. If there is a third dark side, I believe that he will be Patton's opposite. I believe that Deceit is actually Logan's opposite, and Remus is obviously Roman's opposite. So Patton's opposite, dark side, will be the opposite of morality. Someone who's snobby, stuck up, manipulative, angry, putting others down. Maybe he's like a criminal figure, or like, what's the opposite of a dad? Like an angry uncle or something? I don't know. Or you could argue that Patton's dark side is actually Virgil, and we can put this whole theory to rest. Maybe they're both right, maybe only one of them is, maybe none of them are. We could do this all day. Anyways, thank you so much for making it to the end of this probably very long video. I am so excited that you joined me and made it to the end of the video, and I hope to do more Sanders Sides content in the future. So feel free to subscribe, leave a comment down below, and if you have any questions for me, just leave them in the comments and I'll answer them. I love you so much, Fanders family. Thank you for taking me in, and thank you for watching my video. Bye!